Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello, fellow side questers. My name is Justin, also known as Zero Score on various remote corners of the internet. I stream a few nights a week on Twitch, make podcasts and video content with my friends over at ChargeShot, and make editorial-style videos on YouTube about my favorite games and why they're rad. And I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite games and tell you why it's rad. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is kind of a controversial game to discuss. It seems like to any given Zelda fan, it's either their favorite, their least favorite, or the one they never played because it seemed too different. And ironically, a big part of that controversy ties right into the title of this podcast: the side quests. See, Zelda games are generally known for their structure. You play as the titular character Wait, that's not right. You play as the pointy-eared Hylian hero Link as he goes from dungeon to dungeon collecting items that help him fight stronger enemies and make more progress in puzzles and exploration, all the while scooping up whatever MacGuffin each game has decided you need to take down the big bad, which is usually a buff pigman named Ganon. Majora's Mask, on the other hand, almost makes the dungeons an afterthought. Sure, they're still the key points of progression, as you awaken these weird, gangly guardian creatures to hold up the moon before it crashes into the world and destroys everything in Termina, but there's only 4 of them, and most of your key progression items you get outside of the dungeons this time. The dungeons themselves are pretty good. I think because there's less of them so they can focus in more to make each one unique, but that's not really where the meat of the game is, or why it's my favorite. And on that note, now that I've thoroughly buried the lead, why bring up side quests? Well, this is a game all about time management. Like I said, the moon is pissed and about to crash into the world, leaving our sword-wielding 10-year-old hero only 3 days to save everyone. So, everything in the game plays into the ticking time. Characters go about their daily schedules in town. You can even watch them travel from place to place to get an idea of their routine and what you might need to help them with, and certain shops and locations are only open during specific times of day, or might only carry an item you need during a specific window of time, or after other requirements are met that update the shop. It's all calculated, and can be a lot to keep track of, especially in the Nintendo 64 original that gave you a notebook to track quests, but barely put any information in it. The notebook is much more detailed and useful in the 3DS remake, but you still only get information as you talk to people and get information added in. And I've admittedly still only 100% beaten the game when I used a strategy guide. And that's a big part of what turns a lot of people away. And I get it. I've been playing this game since it came out over 20 years ago, and still, when I play, I spend a lot of time wandering around aimlessly, trying to remember what to do next based on the current time and day, and what things are available with the items and masks I have at that moment. But, while it's not going to be for everyone, that's also what makes it my favorite game. In a lot of ways, I think this game pulls off the ideas Breath of the Wild was going for better than what that game did. It also has 4 dungeons and a more open-ended exploration structure where you mostly get key items outside of those dungeons, but whereas Breath of the Wild feels kind of empty and only has minor event changes between day and night, Majora's Mask feels like a truly lived-in world where time and exploration go hand in hand. For example, early on you get access to Milk Road, which should lead to Romani Ranch, but a giant boulder is blocking access. By day 3, the boulder has been broken down and you can finally go in, but there's this calm eeriness to the ranch as the people there seem shaken and upset. There's an offhand comment about, if only we'd known 2 days ago what would happen. But this is a case where, as the hero, you were powerless to stop it due to the roadblock. Luckily, Majora's Mask isn't just about time management, it's also about time manipulation. As you progress through the game, you have to reset time back to day 1 and essentially start over. So the world goes back to how it was, but Link retains his items and, more importantly, his knowledge. So later, you're able to blow up the rock blocking access to the ranch on day 1 and find out what actually happens, leading to one of the weirdest side quests in Zelda history as you fend off alien attackers from abducting the farm's cows. And that's followed up the next day with a chase scene as you fend off horseback attackers doing a milk run to town. And this is only one of the totally unique time-based side quests in the game, and they all have worthwhile rewards spanning from Zelda staples like heart containers and bottles to new items unique to this game in the form of masks, which lets you interact with the world and other side quests in unique ways. A few of these masks basically fill the role of main progression items, like the Goron's mask letting you roll up and go at high speeds for unique platforming sections akin to old Pegasus Boots puzzles on crack, or the Zora's mask that lets you swim with ease and navigate the vast underwater realms of Termina Bay. But a lot of them are more situational, and as such, a lot of these quests that require masks are interconnected. So while one might elude you for most of the game, once you beat something else and receive the perfect mask, something in your brain will click and you'll realize, that's what I've been waiting for, and you rush back to tackle a different quest that's been stumping you. The best example of this is the infamous Couples quest, which spans multiple 3-day cycles and probably a good portion of the game as you complete other areas to finally get all the items and information you need to complete it. You find the catalyst fairly early on, as a worried mother asks you to track down her missing son, Cafe, and gives you a mask of his face to gather information. Which, frankly, is kind of creepy. What kind of mom just keeps a mask of her kid's face? Anyway, through various circumstances, you discover that Cafe was due to be wed to Anju, the innkeeper, and she's worried because she hasn't seen him for a few days. You can also find a mysterious, silent boy wearing a Keaton's mask that drops off a letter on the first day and then disappears. Through another series of circumstances after you've collected another handful of masks, including the postman's mask that lets you rummage through everyone's mail. Guess that's not a federal offense in Termina. You will eventually end up in the location of the final dungeon, Ikana Valley. You will also find out that that boy in the Keaton's mask is Cafe, and that he's been cursed and has to hide from Anju because he's afraid she won't marry him as he is. So, you help him change back to his normal form, and then meet the couple back at town as they vow their love to each other at midnight on the final day, just as the world is destroyed. I'm obviously leaving out a lot of details for time, but this is a beautiful sequence, as well as one of the best side quests in gaming history. Even people that don't care for this game agree with that, and use it as an example of the power of side quests. And while the final item reward might not be totally worth the trouble, everything you get along the way makes up for it, and just the sheer scope of completing this throughout the game, as well as the emotional payoff, still solidifies what makes this game so special. The traditional Zelda elements and the dungeons are fine. That's Zelda 101 at this point. And I do like that Ganon doesn't even make an appearance in this game, as it allows for a more personal and tragic villain story, not so focused on evil's bane. But when people ask me why Majora's Mask is my favorite game, and why I wish more people would give it a chance, I tell them about these little moments in between. The interpersonal connections, and the way you interact with the world using the masks you receive. To this day, I've yet to find another game that's connected with me in this same way. And even when I'm wandering aimlessly on the third day, realizing too late that the things I need to do aren't available anymore, I still know that this game is perfectly crafted, and I'm just a forgetful dork. And all that is not even to mention how this adventure was crafted in a year by a smaller team by reusing a lot of Ocarina of Time's assets. And I think that's a big part of why this game is so unique. The team was able to almost solely focus on concept rather than be bogged down by asset and engine creation. But I guess I have mentioned it now. Oh well, I think my time's probably almost up. And unlike in Majora's Mask, we can't go back. So I hope you've at least been entertained. Happy gaming!
Can you believe we've been friends for 7 years?
And it all started because I compared you to Alana the Lioness.
Tamara Pierce really set the tone of our friendship.
A love of magic,
Briar Moss,
fantasy,
Briar Moss,
powerful women, and of course,
Briar Moss. I'm Anna.
And I'm MJ.
And we invite you to join our Circle of Friendship,
where we do a chapter-by-chapter deep dive into the Circle of Magic series by Tamara Pierce.
We answer important questions like, how does Moonstream let certain dedicates take care of children?
Can you imagine anyone else but Mandy Patinkin playing Nico?
Knives, Briar?
And
knives?
Join us every other Monday at cofpodcast.libsyn.com or wherever you download podcasts.
But seriously, knives?
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.